and I think I speak for most photographers, but you can almost tell when you've taken a photo that you know is special. You can almost feel it instantly, and when that happens, like you get this weird feeling, and it's like this sense of achievement. You're immediately proud of what you've done and what you've put up with leading towards getting this photo. And when you get that feeling, I think it's what a lot of photographers chase, a lot of creatives chase, because when you can capture something so finite and so beautiful and turn it into being this ever living and everlasting thing, it's you can't even describe it. It's crazy.
How you feeling about it?
I'm so stoked.
Yeah.
I'm so stoked. Originally, and even in Tahiti, I fell into a bit of a slump where, you're in like the most beautiful, like an inspiring place in the world, and I felt nothing. I was like, I'm not connected to these photos. I am hating this trip. Like, there is nothing going right. Every time we'd go out into the water, it would be crappy waves, and then we'd come back and it started raining, like absolutely thunderstorming for like 2 to 3 days. And, we were only there for like just under a month, and I was starting to shit myself because these things were adding up. And then there were days like we just couldn't shoot, and there were days that I was just like, I don't even want to shoot, And I think in the end, like, there were a couple of things that kind of completely shifted my perspective. The last 2 weeks that I was there, I was just having the best time of my life.
What happened?
So that's where I had that bit of an accident. So
fuck! Tell us about that.
Yeah. So me and a good friend of mine, he's another surf photographer that lives out there. We were on a beach called Teme, and this beach breaks on a reef, right? Much like most of the reefs and most of the waves in Tahiti. And the way that you have to get out onto this wave is like there's a couple small paths that you can just like sit in the water and swim out. But the path that we took, we followed the other surfers and everything, and man, we just ended up with the timing being a little bit off. And yeah, as we were on the reef, we were standing in about ankle deep water. We were walking out on the reef, and we started hearing the surfers shouting, and started hearing my buddy saying like, go, 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 go. And bear in mind, we've got our cameras with us. We're walking out in fins. And at the time, I was just wearing shorts. So I wasn't wearing like a wetsuit top or anything like that to protect myself. And we're walking out on coral. So it's about a 20-meter walk out on coral. So you're kind of stepping as is already. And I look up and I see like this massive set coming through. We're still in like ankle to waist deep water, and you can't necessarily dive under this wave because you'll hit your head on the coral. And to backtrack, and like 2-3 days prior to this, I was in a surf store, and I was having this conversation with the lady that owned the place, and she was telling me that the best thing that you can do in Tahiti is to get this helmet, like these surf helmets. Like a lot of the Olympic surfers and stuff and photographers, they all have these helmets because boards go flying and you hit the coral quite often. And I said, I've never worn a surf helmet in my entire like shooting career here in Oz or anywhere else. And long story short, she upsold me to buying this helmet. And I couldn't be more thankful for that, because as these waves were hitting us and we were getting dragged along the coral, the final one that hit me, I was kind of lodged into coral with my foot, and we'd been dragged over the reef, and we'd pretty much been taken straight into the impact zone now. And from just being like washed around and kind of disorientated, held under the water for a bit and popped up, you're breathing up and you're just breathing in foam, you're ducking back under. It's just a mess. And
you were stuck this whole time?
Yeah. So, no, not this whole time. So I'd been rolled across the reef, and I'd like cut up my back and my side and my legs. And I went back under to try and pull my fin and ankle out of the coral. And I couldn't. And as I looked up, I'd seen that the other surf photographer had kind of just shifted right in front of me. And I saw that the wave was coming right in front of him. And now we weren't in a spot to where we could duck under the wave or just let the white water take us and we'd be fine. And he just went, oh shit, oh shit, and jumped. And when he jumped like that, he jumped and the wave hit him and came back and it hit me. I got my foot out of the coral just in time. Like before this, my worry was like, this wave's going to take me. I'm going to like break my ankle or something, because these waves are powerful. And he fell back, he hit me. And then all I heard was like this grinding and jarring sound of my head hitting the concrete, hitting the coral. So yeah, like as my head hit the coral, all I heard was like, and like a thud, and like this, it almost sounded like this, like a long crack, right? And then after that, I was just underwater and I was just getting absolutely fucked, right? And I remember we kind of got thrown back onto the beach like after a couple minutes, and I tried to sit back up on a rock, and I was chatting to some of the guys, and like I was just so disorientated, and I hadn't really processed entirely what had happened yet to its full extent. But I ended up taking my helmet off, and I looked at my helmet, and I had a whole bunch of these divots and cracks and scratches all the way through from the coral. And obviously, I mean, we're bleeding everywhere. Like I had a piece of coral go straight into my leg, and it saved the trip. Like it turned the trip around for me. It like really set in stone how, you know, limited our time was actually there. Because after that, like the first bit of time there, it was like, you know, I've got heaps of time. Like I've got a whole month. Like I'll do whatever I want to do here. But it gave me like that motivation to be like, okay, I want to get back into this and really give it the best shot I can. But kind of took us nearly dying to realize that. So it was a bit of a challenge. It was a bit scary, but I mean, yeah, I'm grateful for it.
Dude, you shifted your whole respect for the environment that you're in.
The environment, the people. I mean, you know, obviously, like they are so connected to nature, to the water especially, and you can kind of see why. Like I stopped seeing it as a tourist, and I started to see it as like it's something that you need to respect, and it's something that you almost need to like have it show you its power first. For you to be able to understand and respect this place to its fullest. Because again, after that, I started seeing everything as being ridiculously beautiful. I started paying attention to the smaller details. You know, you started seeing a lot more of like the finer things on the island. And yeah, I think it's given me the motivation to come back here and make something awesome. The first like few days prior to that happening, any photo that I'd taken, I was calling home and I was saying like how disconnected I was from every photo, because I hadn't felt like I'd given anything yet. I felt like everything that I was shooting was easily replicated. I felt like I was taking these very boring, shitty stock images of surfers and this beautiful place because it's been photographed a million times. And after this, I was like, oh shit, okay, I've got some cool stuff here. I'm happy, I'm proud of it, and let's see where we go.
So the collection is going to be made up of the images that you took after that, eh?
Yeah. So I pretty much deleted every single photo prior to that happening.
Far out, man.
Yeah. And it wasn't even, you know, like I had beautiful photos, but it was something in me that was like, they aren't my photos. I'm just disconnected from that. I don't want to share that. So maybe someday, but I look at them, I don't see beauty, I don't see emotion, I don't see anything. Like I just see them as being a bunch of pixels. And I looked at it and I was like, there's no heart to these images. It doesn't feel alive. And this whole collection is called The Island Lives. And I wanted to title that because it's exactly that. The island is alive. Like the people on the island, the nature, everything is just so alive and vibrant and just beautiful. And I felt that like if I wasn't feeling that, nobody else would see it and feel the same thing. So as the photographer, I don't know, it's the first time I've done something like that where I've just axed a bunch of good photos and not look back. Like, it's not something I think about. It's not a couple frames that I'm like, oh, but those could have sold for whatever.
Do you still have them somewhere though?
No.
No?
They're gone.
I think you got to keep it just even as a reminder of...
I've got the scars. Yeah, I've got the scars. No. I mean, obviously, I've still got like, you know, iPhone photos from like the days prior to that. But any photo that I took on my camera, I was just, like I said, I was in a slump. I got there. I was feeling pretty average about what I'd taken. Even though sending them back here and people were saying like, this is insane. I personally just didn't feel anything towards them. So
it was a lot of, I guess, like organising, and there was a lot happening around the actual trip itself before you got in, right? So there was like, I guess, excuse the pun, but like extra baggage with that. There was, you know, you went in there with a particular agenda and things were just kind of almost unraveling while you were in it. And that would have surely have contributed just to that, like what was going on in your head, and just almost like this is no longer the project that I came here to do. And do you reckon that had contributed to that disconnect?
Yeah, look, definitely. And it's something that I hadn't even thought about leading up to it, where I'd built up this massive expectation and completely forgotten about, you know, these factors like the weather, the swell, the people, my personal physical abilities to do some of the things that I thought I'd be able to do. You know, like the ocean is unforgiving, and you get into the wrong spot at the wrong time, and it's dangerous. And like with that as well, so many of the other activities that you're doing they're quite far out of reach for a lot of people. And I found myself categorized into being a lot of people when I was there. You know, a lot of the beautiful, beautiful locations are quite hard to get to. And in my head, I was like, oh, it's going to be this easy thing. I'm going to get there. I'm going to take all these photos, come back, impress this massive audience of people, sunshine and rainbows, and it's just going to be, that's it. You know, I'll ride off into the sunset and just be stoked. And it was the exact opposite. It was a struggle like every single day. You know, we'd be in the water for a while. Every single day you'd wake up the next morning and you're stiffer, like you've got, like your feet are all cut up from the reef. They're blistered from your fins. You're swimming in the water for like hours and hours every day. It starts adding up. And, you know, after like the 5th consecutive day in the water, you still haven't gotten the photo you want to get. And you're all cut up and bruised and blistered and everything's hurting. You start to feel like it's not going to happen. And
what was, when you say it's not going to happen, like what was the expectation at that point?
And I think I speak for most photographers, but you can almost tell when you're taking a photo that you know is special. You can almost feel it instantly. And when that happens, like you get this weird feeling, and it's like this sense of achievement. You're immediately proud of what you've done and what you've put up with leading towards getting this photo. And when you get that feeling, I think it's what a lot of photographers chase, a lot of creatives chase. Because when you can capture something so finite and so beautiful and turn it into being this ever-living and everlasting thing, it's you can't even describe it. It's crazy.
Yeah, but before you were able to like get yourself here and here into the place of like, sweet, now we're capturing the thing that we came here to do, what do you think was the disconnect? After you arrived and before that accident,
yeah,
what was that mindset? Like, what was the barrier that you just weren't able to cross?
I think it was just setting these unrealistic expectations that I had for not only this gallery, this expedition, and thinking that I would just be able to go and do everything. You know, we ran into some troubles where we couldn't necessarily swim in certain spots because of the Olympics being on. And in my head, I'd planned to be in those spots and be able to shoot at this amazing wave. When people think of Tahiti, especially surfers and surf photographers, you think of Tahupu, which is like this massive, beautiful, beautiful wave. And in my head, immediately, I was like, that's the culture I want to go and photograph. I want to do surf culture. I want to do this wave. I want to do life around this wave, and I want to show how beautiful this is. And it's quite crazy. We didn't get to that wave until the very last day of my trip. So everything went wrong in that first week, and then right as the accident happened, since like everything after that was perfect, almost perfect. And
you just shed away a lot of the shit you didn't have to, like, it was just, you're like, I've just been worrying about things, and there's been shit that's just weighing on me that is just not.
And I was worrying about stupid shit. Like, I was worrying about, even back then, are people actually going to even fucking show up to this? Like, I was worrying about, what am I going to frame these pictures in? And I was thinking about all these fine details and shit that doesn't matter in the bigger scheme of things, especially when you don't even have the image yet. And the collection that I've ended up shooting is actually quite different to what I thought I'd get. And I've surprised myself in that, where I've taken some photos where I look back and I'm like, fuck, I did that. That's really, really sick. Like, I'm the guy that got that second, half a second in time, and I've been able to frame that and now share it with, my closest family and friends. So it's pretty special, that feeling after, shedding away this, almost like an element of shame and guilt for being in paradise and not doing anything, or me feeling like I'm not doing anything, or getting the photos, or even just doing the beautiful islands justice. You get some photos and you're like, it just doesn't look good.
There's such an element of just having to fucking just letting go.
Yeah.
There's so many times, like, you speak with other creatives, all disciplines, and whenever there's a project, you kind of go in, like the creative juices start flowing and the ideas start kicking in, and you're thinking, okay, this is what we're going to do. And so many projects that I've worked on, the end result looks nothing like what I thought it was going to be when I started. And just through that is now like the whole idea of having that idea at the start. Like, when you first come up with this concept at the start, it's just there to get you going, to eventually take you to where you're going to end up.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when that happens, when you can look back and you can see how far the idea has actually grown, that's when it's a success, in my opinion. It doesn't matter how far you kind of stray away from the original concept. As long as it still gives you the same feeling you had when you were coming up with this idea, when you were, like I was chatting to some friends when I first started talking out and kind of fleshing out the idea of doing this collection. And I remember, like, I had this feeling inside of me where it was like, okay, like, we're going to do this, and it's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be absolutely fucking wild. And when I started losing that feeling, the first few days I was there, I was like, oh, something's wrong. Like, have I made a mistake coming here? I should have gone to a different island. Should I have gone to a different location completely? Am I good enough to take these photos that I thought I could?
Classic.
Yeah. The imposter syndrome was real. I mean, you've got some of the most talented surf photographers there, all shooting for the Olympics, and you start seeing these photos go up and go viral, and it's hard. You're out there in the water every single day, and you come out with nothing to show. These guys, they're professionals. They're the best in the business. They get priority on most the waves and stuff, and it's hard to share that with people who haven't really been in the water shooting as well. I think it's something that surf photographers struggle with a fair bit, where you've got the professionals and like the big dogs in the game. They can always just sit in front of you and they can take your shot, and you can have this crazy creative vision and anything like that, and it's just them being in the right spot, right time.
Yeah.
With the right amount of experience. And these guys are extremely talented, and they spend most of their days in the water as well. So you've got to give them credit as well to what they're doing and the craft that they've mastered. But yeah, the days that we kind of just separated entirely from them, I also felt like I could just be my most creative, because I wasn't trying to kind of emulate any of their styles anymore. I wasn't looking at the same shots that they were looking at. I think a lot of my photography is fairly different to what the standard surf photography is, and what a lot of the current guys on the rotation really do take. So I think I'll focus less on the sports element and try and find where the other heartbeat is in the photo. And I think that's why my photos also look a little bit different to theirs. But yeah, it was a challenge sharing the water with them for sure. And yeah, like I said, as soon as we started going separate and just really diving into, trying to find these remote and wild spots, that we were able to really find these amazing photos.
That's the crazy thing with photography. And speaking with Sean McDonald, another photographer, and he was saying how the camera is basically just an extension of you, right? You're bringing in all your experiences and everything that's going on in here, and you're capturing that. That's essentially what you're doing. You're not capturing that image, you're capturing everything else that came before that image, right? So whatever you bring to a particular situation is going to be different to what the next photographer who you're just right next to, whatever it is they capture is going to have a different essence to you.
Yeah,
and the image that you capture.
Definitely, I agree. I definitely see my camera as also just being a tool. I've abused that thing you have no idea. I've put it through its absolute test. Camera's about 7 years old now, and I love it more every single day. I've drowned it twice in my underwater housing, and it still lives. It's an absolute beast. And yeah, I'm almost attached to the hip to that thing when I'm in the water. I think it's also important to, as a photographer, you kind of feel like it's your job to capture these moments. But a lot of the time, I found that when I was my happiest and when I was taking my best photos, I would also just watch whatever's happening. I wouldn't necessarily bring the camera up. I'd just be floating in the water, looking up, feeling the waves kind of taking you, pushing you around a little bit. And when you kind of start to feel all your senses come back to life, I think that's when you can take your good photos. That's where everything lines up perfectly for you. You're in the right headspace, your heart, you're feeling connected to the place, you're feeling connected to these photos. And I think when you have this perfect matchup, the camera is just there to just hold that moment in time.
Yeah, that's probably something that you need to practice at, right? If you're going to be fully immersed in an environment and being completely present in the space that you're in, feeling everything with all your senses, I feel as though that thinking then, I need to capture this, can almost just take you out of it, does it?
Yeah. I think, and that's why a lot of people, I think, do just take the photo though, because I wouldn't say that there's a fear of missing the moment and missing getting that shot, because I think, I'm still chasing that one shot that I get that I'm wow, that's my photo. That's the one that I've taken. I'm proud and I'm happy of a lot of my photos, but I think there's so many photographers, myself included, that you do just feel like you have to take the photo because you're in the spot, you're there, you've got your equipment, you've made the trip out, you've put everything on the line to get these photos. And when the opportunity presents itself and you don't take it, you can kind of just guilt trip yourself for the rest of the time. You're oh, that could have been my photo, that could have been the one to, put me on the map and make a name for myself. But that's also the mentality that I went into this trip with. And I've left, with a lot more respect for myself, my gear, and understanding that a moment caught in time is almost as special as a moment lost. So being able to just sit and watch it happen and then let it go is quite special as well. So you start to look at it as, okay, I've put everything on the line for this photo, and this, turns into just being, I've put everything on the line for this experience, and you're able to see and witness firsthand, and then, it's a beautiful spot. So maybe 10 minutes later, something similar happens and you're able to get the photo that you wanted. But I found myself watching and just letting everything happen first, especially after the accident. And then, things started becoming more beautiful. Like, you can appreciate them a whole lot more. And then you're kind of also giving yourself a gift, seeing these beautiful moments and being the only person to watch them happen, See surfers dancing like in the sunset, whales swimming underneath you. Like, it's ridiculous, man. Absolutely ridiculous.
With that humpback shot that's going to be showcased in the exhibition, do you reckon that's your money shot?
It's definitely a shot I'm proud of. I wouldn't say it's my money shot. I've got a lot of photographs that are similar, and kind of give me a similar feeling. The story behind that one was crazy. Like, we were shooting, and
that is it, dude. All right. So just to preface, that shot is incredible. It's incredible. It's not even just like, oh, humpback whale, snap. There's some. How would you even describe it?
I'd hope it feels alive. Like, I'd hope it feels like it's moving. I hope, like, you feel like you're there as well. Like, I really want people to be able to, almost be drawn into the photo and kind of sit there with the image for a bit. And then, eventually somebody taps them on the shoulder and they look away, or they end up scrolling past it. But I'd really hope that, like, when people see these photos, they're able to say, okay, wow, like, they're transported into the moment.
Yeah, dude, I look at that shot and it kind of instills a bit of fear. And what I mean by fear is that it gives you respect for that beast of a creature.
Yeah.
There's, look, just tell us the story.
Yeah, so we'd kind of been looking for humpbacks, and we'd been looking for the whales for a while, and we started seeing, them blowing water up into there, and, like, that's kind of the sign that they're in the area. And we went with this amazing guy that's one of the locals in Moorea, which is one of the islands off of Tahiti, and he just knew everything. And we went out with him, and he just put us in the right spots at the right times. And we had a very small group of people. It was just myself and 3 other friends, and we were all just there to experience exactly the same thing of swimming with these whales. And like, the second we jumped into the water, it was just quiet. You're in the open ocean. It's wild. There's nothing around you. There's no trees. The boats, you almost can't see the boat. You look up every now and then, and land kind of gets further away, and it's just silent. And then out of nowhere, you just see the shadow appear, and it's right under you. And when I was taking that particular shot, I was so focused on this and seeing this beautiful, just magnificent creature coming up, that I didn't realize I was, like, actually getting pulled back a little bit. And I'm like, this current's really strong. Like, it's affecting the framing of my shot. Like, what's happening? Like, normally I can swim a while, like, strong swimmer. I'm getting pulled back more and more. And then I look up, and then I see there's another whale that was just coming past my face like that. And that's when I turned and I got that shot. So I got that shot. So I got 2 of my favorite shots. Like I said, I was there for about a month, and I got 2 of my favorite shots within a couple seconds. You can do all the planning in the world, and everything can happen right, everything can go wrong, but when it goes right, it's 2-3 seconds apart, and you've found stuff that you can't plan. It's wild. So,
dude, you captured that perfectly. Like, I've got this, I wouldn't say, yeah, call it a fear of water. I guess it's just the vastness and the blackness of it.
Yeah.
It's probably more respect than fear.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I appreciate how insignificant I am when I'm in the water.
Yeah.
And then when you see a big whale, a big creature like that, then it highlights how small you actually are.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think like that, I got that sense of that looking at that image.
Yeah, it was definitely like, like you can walk around with humans and you can see wild animals. You can see giraffes. You can see rhinos. You can see elephants and all these, like, they're big. But when you see something like that with the tail swimming towards you, twice the size, you're like, holy shit, this is real. This is happening.
Bus.
Like this is a bus swimming right next to me. Yeah, this is a tram. It's right next to me. And yeah, you feel insignificant, but at the same time, it's almost like you can breathe underwater for a few seconds, where it's like everything else goes away. You stop seeing it as you're underwater. You stop seeing it as there's literally anybody else around you. And it's so special because you do get a couple seconds where I put the camera down and like I took that one shot, I put the camera down and I just watched the whale go past. And, I floated back up, and as I was coming up, it hit its tail in the water, and I watched that, and you had some of the spray come back and hit you, and it was like you almost baptized. Because
Dude, that shit changes your life, man.
Yeah, it was very special. It was very special, and everything happening as well, like leading up to that, it was just so magic. Like you can't script that stuff, and when it happens, it's just it's special. It's unique.
Yeah. Hey, when we chatted the last time, and I said to you that your photos create this sense of nostalgia. I'm pretty far removed from surf culture. So when I look at yours, I feel a connection to surf culture. And it's strange because I described it as nostalgic, but yet I haven't experienced that. So I went down this fucking rabbit hole of trying to understand, how do you feel nostalgic for something that you haven't experienced, that you haven't, that you haven't lived? Apparently there's a word for that. Anemoia. And it was coined by this guy, John Koenig. He wrote a book about, it's called, what was it? It's a dictionary of unknown sorrows. So it's all these emotions that we feel that we can't describe. So I just had to look it up. I'm like, how do you feel nostalgic for something you haven't experienced? So that's the best way to describe your work. For me, your work is anemoic.
Yeah, I've never heard that word before. So it's pretty special. I mean, when we were chatting, I was driving at the time, and I was like, wow, I haven't had somebody describe my work like that before. I think it's often you get the comment like, you're so lucky that you get to do this stuff, or it's an amazing shot. There's not really too much depth to a lot of the compliments that you get, and you start to receive the same comments on your work, and it kind of just fades into like this pool of gratitude where you're very thankful that people even give a shit about your work in the first place. But when you get these unique comments on your work and new names and words to learn, it's special, man. So I've never heard that one before, but I'm super grateful for it.
Yeah, I only just came across it just after we spoke. Because at the time I dropped an episode with another artist, Josh Lord, and his whole thing was creating a vision of a future, and for people to feel nostalgic for a future we haven't yet experienced. Where it's funny because I dropped that episode and then we spoke, actually that day, and yours resonated with me in a similar but yet different, where yours is nostalgic for a past that I hadn't experienced, a connection with surf culture. I've never really been around beaches much. I mean, not to the point where I'm going out fucking surfing or watching whales. But there's a quality about your work that is able to transport me into that. So I think that whatever it is that you're working with, whatever resources that you're tapping into here, you're able to convey what the essence of it is. And I don't know if it's necessarily true to surf culture, but there's definitely, you have an interpretation, and it is just through your lens, so to speak, right? Like your relationship with it and how you're capturing that through your camera. So it does, and I get it, like as in I connect with it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and, we've kind of spoken about this before, but like I didn't grow up near the water. I didn't grow up near the surf. I was born in Johannesburg, South Africa, and we would have the odd beach holiday every now and then with the family. But by no means did I grow up surfing. By no means did I grow up involved in the surf culture or any kind of aspect of that scene. It was only when we moved to Australia that I started kind of becoming more and more curious about the water itself. But growing up, I had a fear of the ocean. I had a fear of water as myself. I felt comfortable around it, but as soon as I'd get too deep and out of my depths, I'd walk on water and I'd be out of there. I'd feel
Fucking
something.
seaweed touches your leg, like,
and I'm out of there.
gone.
And now I'm happy to sit, a fingerprint away from a shark.
But it's not irrational though, right? Like it's pretty daunting.
It's.
I mean, you're in the point now where you can overcome that fear, but surely when you're in the water and you're seeing those whales, that there's still a part of you that's just like, fuck.
I think you always have to be mindful that they are wild and you're in their territory. You're entirely in their domain. You're experiencing their place. They aren't just coming to put on a show for you and then leaving. So there is always a risk that something can go wrong. And there's always a risk that can go very wrong.
Yeah, and your near-death experience as well. Like, man, that's so much of that is just out of your control.
Exactly.
You're at the mercy of nature.
Exactly. So I think you hear these terrible stories about things that have happened, but you also hear these beautiful stories. And I think what a lot of people that want to explore and see more of the world, and a lot of photographers alike and creatives want to see is more, and they want to do more, and they want to experience these crazy things, while they're still here. And I think just getting the opportunity as well, you start to appreciate it, and you're like, okay, wow, I've been given such an insane opportunity to be in this spot where I can travel to these beautiful locations and live out a dream that I've always thought wouldn't be possible. So when I'm in the water, it's the last thing I'm thinking about is like, this whale's gonna run into me, or this shark's gonna bite me, or anything like that. You kind of just stop and realize, like, I'm doing what I want to do, and this is just awesome.
I guess like if you're in the water, there's just so much, because like it's an overload of stimulus that's happening at the time, and just an overwhelming sense of what this ocean is all about. So you have no other choice than to just resign to this, right? Yeah. And you're now just a participant in this whole situation.
Yeah. Look, I think exactly that. A lot of people I think a lot of people can meditate and they can sit still for a while, and they can be still with their thoughts, right? For me, it's when I'm doing crazy shit that I can really just almost switch into autopilot and just be there.
Just lock in.
Like, not even locking in, really. Just like almost distancing myself from whatever I'm doing at that exact second in time, and going into more of a meditative state where, it's quite peaceful in the water. Like, especially when you're looking down and you're seeing these beautiful creatures, or you're swimming with these sharks and they're so close they're nearly bumping into you. And, a lot of the waves that you're in, and you see these surfers just gliding across the water, and it's like, how is this possible? How you go underneath a wave and you see the silhouette of a surfer kind of continue and follow on behind the barrel. That's a gift. And I think being able to experience that, and having experienced it in this beautiful part of the world, was something I'll never forget. And it's really, I've taken a lot away from this trip, where it's not just photos or anything like that. I think it's a new lease on my whole creative outlook, essentially, where I'd never approach a trip like that ever again, being that I want to go there with a specific output of a specific, number of images for a gallery or anything like that. I think it's turned into more of this experimental idea of whatever happens. And yeah, I think it's something I'll learn to appreciate over time. Like, obviously it's not going to be, get there next time and not think like I have to do anything, because I do. In my heart, I still want to capture those fleeting moments. And like I said, when you get them, it just pays off, and you just feel like this sense of pride.
Yeah, dude, like so much of our lives is out of our control, right? And we're just strictly just reactive to everything else that's happening. So when you're creating something, like I was saying before, that it is an output of all the experiences that you've had, and you're able to then just focus it down into this one little point, whether it is you're illustrating, you're painting, you're creating whatever, or for you just taking that snapshot. And you especially like when you're talking about surf photography, that there's this interplay between nature, this fucking beast of a thing, and the human element, and trying to capture that relationship. So much of what you do is just having to resign to, like, you can't control what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
You're just at its mercy.
Yeah. Like there's certain elements that you can control, but it's exactly that. You do just have to take the step back and just let whatever's about to happen. Whether that means you're going to get hit by a wave, you can't really tense up too much and freak out and overthink things, and you do something like that and you'll get hurt a lot more than if you just I'll go underneath, I'll get smashed up, I'll get cut up, but I'll be fine. You go underneath, you rationalize it, you think about it again, you pop back up, another wave's coming, I'll be fine. You go back under it, and then over time, like, you start to experience more and more of these accidents and more of these experience with, like, swimming with the whales, the sharks, swimming in some ridiculous currents, and kind of living in some of these crazy places as well, where I think you start to become comfortable doing that as well, where it doesn't feel as far removed from when you, like, before you got to that destination or before you took the trip. Where if I was, now having not taken the trip and I was just thrown into the water there on that day, I would be shitting myself. Same situation now, I feel like I'd be a whole lot more comfortable. So I think it is just being able to take the step back and just completely, as cliche as it sounds, just go with the flow.
Yeah.
And
but that's all you can do.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. Like, the more that you're going to try to go against it, and like when you went to the trip, you're like, this is the objective, and everything else was working against you. You're like, oh my God, it's just not happening. It's like, well, man, you just got to fucking let go.
Yeah. And it's when you do that the magic actually starts happening, and you start to feel like life being pumped back into what you're trying to do. And I can sit back and I can look at this collection, and we got them all printed yesterday, and it was so insane holding these memories essentially on print and looking at them, and only I know what happened next and what happened before. Only I know exactly how that sounded, how that smelled. There's quite a few images in this collection that I sit back and I can. It's almost like you have like this weird connection with the photograph, where anybody can see it and they can think, oh wow, that's my favorite photo, I love that photo, like I've just got this connection to it, but nobody else knows exactly what happened before and after.
When you strip away all the bullshit that you were carrying with you before, and when you got to the point where, like, once you take away all the bullshit, all that's left is just authenticity. Yeah? Those photos were captured with a different pretense. And I reckon that, and I got it. I saw a couple of the samples and they hit pretty different. There is an essence about it, and I'm sure that there's going to be other people that would be better at, I guess, like, resonating with them. The people that are going to be more aligned with the culture that you're in are going to feel this connection with not just the images, but with the moments that you're in. I got a sense of that, man. And like I said, I'm so far removed from that culture. And for me, like I felt something, and hearing the story behind them, it just, for me, now I can look at them and be like, you know what? I get it, right? Like I understand the story, the essence behind it. And I'm sure that the people that have been following your journey, that know what you're up against when you went in and what you came out with, man, it's pretty fucking amazing, dude.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. I really do. And I'm so excited to share it. It's always different when you put something up on social media and you have, an audience receive it versus in person. This is my first ever solo expedition. This is my first ever solo exhibition, and to have like as much of a turnout that we're getting, the support is wild. Honestly, I didn't expect more than 30 people to come, and seeing how many people have responded and feeling the support from a lot of the people that I was talking to before, during, and after this trip. A lot of them know where my headspace was at leading up to the trip as well. And then, a lot of them also know about what happened on the trip and how my whole perspective on the thing changed. So it's going to be exciting seeing how they receive the images and how they receive it in person. It's something that I really want to start doing more of is bringing art in person as well, and having everybody, other friends and friend groups all come together and, for what it might be one night, sit down, watch some films and have a look at these images, tell some stories of their own.
How many pieces do you have again?
I have 11.
11 pieces, yeah. How was it like just to whittle it down to 11?
That was challenging.
Yeah.
In the collection, I have a few from the same day, being the whales.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of them, I've had to kind of cull back and it's not saying that I won't ever release another edition of this series in the future, because there are a lot of images that I'm proud of. And there are a lot of works in this collection that, I feel just didn't link exactly with each other. So the pieces that I've narrowed it down to have been because they relate best to each other. They kind of convey the same message and the same feeling that I wanted to share.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of actually narrowing it down, I had some help from other friends as well and people I was on the trip with. And I think it's just so important to not just stick with my gut entirely and just throw it at the wall and see if anybody else likes it. But it was so nice having this almost collaborative process as well, where I was able to hear their thoughts and again, like how they experienced the images as soon as they saw it. And it was quite special hearing how they described the image and how they would, I've had some friends even help name some of the images, which is awesome. I've had some, my family help name the images, which is, it's just been a really nice experience all around. It's been something that I'm not entirely familiar with this end phase of it all. So I look forward to getting into it, and we're on the home stretch now. It's nearly the gallery date. So
yeah, by the time this one drops, it's going to be just a couple of days away.
Unreal. 6th of September. So be there. It'll be awesome. It'll be a really special night.
So this whole process from start to finish.
Yeah.
Like when did you first plan the trip?
Months ago.
Yeah. So that whole runway leading up to August.
Yeah.
Spending about a month away.
I didn't plan on shooting a collection though in like the initial phases of planning this trip. So I thought that I'd go there, I'd get a couple photos, and it'd just be something that I share online.
So what point did you decide that this is a body of work now?
I was walking up and down Grattan Street. I was on the phone with my auntie at the time, and I just saw this space, and I saw how the light came into the space, and I saw the surfboards, and there was this bright blue, bright orange, and like this amazing like light was coming through the room, and I almost like stopped and hung up the phone. But I walked straight into the store and I started talking to the guy. His name's Georgie. He owns the store, and we just immediately connected. I told him about this trip, and he told me about this idea that he'd had, wanting to get some painters and artists and stuff into his store. And I was like, well, we both had this mutual idea of, we were so pissed off with social media, and we wanted to bring a group of people together. And I said, well, I've got this trip coming up to Tahiti. And he's like, do you? And I was like, yeah. And we kind of formulated this idea together that, okay, let's put together an exhibition and share it. And I jumped into the opportunity. I said yes. I've had some works displayed internationally over the last few years, but never an entire solo show. So it was a challenge I was looking at taking on sometime soon, and the opportunity presented itself, and it was just too good to refuse. And all the stars aligned, and it's happening, and it's fucking awesome.
Dude, it's just that journey, isn't it? That process. Like all these things kind of just fall into place, and it's a matter of the perspective that you bring along with you as well.
Yeah.
And you were saying just before that before we recorded was that things are starting to click.
Yeah. I'm enjoying it, and I think it's been quite a challenge working in with a lot of galleries, especially showing my work, because I find that, like we say, like it's a little bit different to what a lot of these gallery wrapped artists are sharing, and their works are amazing, and I just don't think that my name in the industry is as powerful as a lot of theirs are just yet. And that's the reason why the surf store just appealed to me so much. I had a response from a gallery owner who I probably won't name a week prior to Georgie saying yes. She said that like nobody in Melbourne would buy my work, and they'd never be stupid enough to host a solo show just for me. So
that's nice of him to say.
it was, yeah.
Could have just have said nothing.
Exactly. Like you could have just said, contact this person, and never responded. But I mean, it was the response that I needed to as well be like, okay, fuck, I'm not the best in the world at this. Like I can get better. I can get a lot better. And, it kind of just gave me that fire in my soul. And I think that's, part of why I challenged myself so much leading up to the trip and on the first few days of that trip as well. To the point of being like, I just don't want this to be a failure. I don't want this to be a flop. I don't want these people to be right. And, I think when it all shifted, everything clicked. Man, it's just worked out.
What would success at the end of this chapter, what would it look like?
I think I'm only just starting this chapter. I think what I would see as success from this exhibition as a whole is seeing a whole bunch of people come down there and appreciate the body of work that we've done and the films that the boys have put together. They're both, all of them are just, they're amazing. I've had the opportunity to be one of the only people to watch them as well, and it's just really cool seeing the community come together. It's something that is so special. It's something that we don't really have a whole lot of in the surf art space, really, where we're able to bring a whole bunch of people together and just have an amazing time.
Yeah, and I think that's why it makes so much more sense you hosting, or your exhibition being hosted in a surf shop.
Yeah, well, it's that as well as, I don't think I'll ever have an exhibition, and I made this choice like pretty much after I left the one before, where I sat back and she'd just given me this response, and I sat back and I looked at the gallery and I was like, you know what, you're right, my work would never be sold yet.
Yeah, fuck your gallery.
Not in the sense of even fuck your gallery, but you're like, my work I would never bring my work to a gallery like this. I would never let my work sit on these boring white walls. It sucks the life out of the images, and I think having this rustic, awesome sense of it's an older building as well. but it kind of feels like home when you walk through. And I think filling that room with people, it's just going to be warm. It's going to be just an awesome environment for people to chat, socialize, and just mingle. We've got friends flying down from all around Australia, which is really special. So
That's cool.
in terms of kind of measuring the success of the event and the night itself, like if people come there and they're able to appreciate the works that we've made and they're able to walk away with something more than just, a fun night out, I'm so stoked.
Yeah, man. I'm big on artwork and the context that is viewed in. Like, more than the artwork, I think that it's, well, not more than, but equal to the artwork is the context and how you're going to view it, how you're going to absorb it. And I get the appeal of a gallery with white walls. It's just there to showcase the work and put the work front and center. But it also feels like there's a lot of value in putting it in a space that's going to heighten the essence of what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you want people to feel your work and to really resonate with it, put it in a space where that's already permeating that culture and that essence. So once they walk in, even without your pictures up on the walls, they can walk in and they're going to feel what it is that you want them to feel.
Yeah.
You put your photos up and it's just going to amplify that.
Yeah, exactly that. And I really hope it does. And they're a brand new business as well down there.
Cool.
Surf 3181, and he's a great guy. So it's also awesome being able to bring in a whole new bunch of people who, may potentially be, future customers, or whatever it might be for him that helps him out there. It's something that, like, I'm really enjoying being a part of this brand new thing with him, and kind of almost bringing people, helping him grow as well. So it's almost resemblant to that. Both him and I are kind of starting out, and where we go from here is, nobody can really tell.
It's just another collaboration, right?
Exactly.
Like, everyone just, like, you're creating this community.
Yeah. So
And what's good for one, it's good for everyone.
Exactly. And I can't wait to see how it all turns out. I can't wait to see how people receive the images, like you're saying, and how they sit back, and it's just going to be so special watching the boys talk about their films and share that with this pretty large audience. 100 people online versus 100 people in person. It's quite different. And for such a large turnout for the first show as well, I'm so stoked. It's going to be really special, and I just appreciate a lot of these opportunities that we've been given leading up to this. So, I mean, not a whole lot more time left until it's the gallery itself, but I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, dude. And you got another trip planned, or planning another trip?
Yeah,
imminent.
Yeah. So we're in the process. Well, I mean, the trips they'll keep happening. We've got Tasmania next month, and then after that, we're going to be breaking out to Indonesia. So we can't talk a whole bunch of that one yet, but it's going to be a very exciting time. We're traveling around with some really cool people, and we're going to be doing some really awesome stuff.
So would you say that now, like, these trips that you're organising, you came up with them post Tahiti, or were they already in the works?
No, it's kind of been something that's come to life after Tahiti.
So your whole mindset has completely shifted with your approach to the travel and the photography.
Yeah, entirely. So I think what I might set it to is, whenever I'm feeling almost that high, and now I know exactly what that feeling is when I'm traveling. If I start to feel like that, that's when I start to put a body of work together. When I'm feeling inspired in that exact same way, that's when I know it's time to do something. But I think it's also important to just go out and see a lot of the world, experience these new cultures, and experience different wildlife, and really learn to appreciate it while it's still here. It seems very permanent, but I think what a lot of people also forget is, like, we've got these beautiful images now, but some of these animals might not be around for a whole much longer. So it's an important job, as well as like a photographer in the outdoor space, to capture some of these moments and hopefully bring some awareness left to what's happening. So In particular, like there's some really important work that a lot of conservationists are doing out in Tahiti, and it's a group of people that we're going to raise some money for, with some of the proceeds from the event, the Prince. We're going to set
Awesome,
towards, going to, they're called the Coral Gardeners, and they do amazing work out in Tahiti, and they've just opened up in Fiji as well. So we're going to set a couple of proceeds from the exhibition out to those guys, and hopefully fund some more amazing work.
Dude, that sounds great. Give us the details, man. Because now, like I was saying, but when people hear this, you're going to be days away.
Yeah, of course. Well, 2 Grattan Street, Paran.
Mm-hmm. On the 6th?
On the 6th of September. We've got a couple spots left for walk-ins available, but you can go through to my Instagram, and it's the first link in my bio.
Mm-hmm.
Get yourself a ticket, and I hope to see them there. I hope to see all you guys there.
How long's it running for?
It'll be from 6 through to 11. We're going to have films being screened from 9:30.
Yeah.
So come down. We've got amazing partners.
6 to 11 is in the time?
Yeah.
What about the dates?
So it'll be a one-night event, and then the prints will be up on display for the following week after. Yeah. So it'll be a great time. We've got some amazing partners, being Stone and Wood and Naming This Later, where they've supplied us with some drinks, and Naming This Later have supplied us with 100 rugs, 100, which is, it's been amazing. We're going to have them kind of walk through, and when they're coming to watch the film, instead of us hiring a bunch of plastic chairs and it just being a mess, Naming This Later came forward, and they've given us 100 rugs, so people can wrap the rug around them. It's like a blanket. It's an amazing blanket rug type thing, and they can sit on the floor, watch the film on the rug, and go home with it as well. So there'll be amazing things happening, amazing creatives, awesome community to network with, a lot of photographers, artists, musicians, and filmmakers as well. So it'll be a great time to come down and check it out, and I look forward to seeing all you guys there.
Yeah, dude, looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
People connect with you where? Just on Instagram?
Yeah, find me on Instagram, just Matt Hardy Brown. My website as well, matthardybrown.photography.
Man, thank you so much for coming on, dude. We talked about this since before you went away.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to hear about how it just completely shifted entirely, and how you walked away with this whole new outlook and a whole new appreciation for how you approach your work. And I think that there's a lot of lessons that you're going to be taking with you to the next one.
Yeah.
And also, just for me, it's just reinforced that there's so much about the process and just resigning to it and figuring out things all just as you go and along the way, and just kind of letting go.
Yeah. No, well, I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me, and it's been awesome chatting. It's been awesome sharing it, and oh man, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Sweet, man. Thanks, dude.
Cheers.